American Dream Makers. This is Zena Krogadal, your host for today. I have an extremely exciting guest today. His name is Brian Proctor, the son of Bob Proctor, the great Bob Proctor. And before I bring Brian on, I just want to say thank you so much for being on American Dream Makers. And if you are watching this live, please be sure to share this out. Brian has an amazing message that I want everyone to hear. And if you're watching this on the replay, please go ahead and share this out as well. Also, go ahead, if you're watching this live, to give StreamYard permission, streamyard.com/Facebook, so that we can see your comments. And I do believe that the American dream belongs to all of us. Not only can we achieve it, but we can go beyond. And so Brian Proctor absolutely is an American dream maker. And he has a book out called My Father Knew the Secret. And he is just an amazing man, has done so many things. And here we go. Let's just not even waste any more time. We've got a lot to dive into on his new book. Hi, Brian.
Hey, Zena, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Really good. It's great to be here today.
Oh, I'm so glad that you can be here. I know you have been very, very busy. And I've been busy reading your book. My Father Knew the Secret. And I even have lots of highlights on here. Like I have pages and pages that I've just been going through and just gleaning from. So it's been so fun reading it, really enjoying it. So we definitely want to get into the book. And for those of you that are watching, please go ahead and share this out. And by the way, for those that are sharing the most, I will pick someone. I'll pick two people even. I'm feeling really, really, really generous here. I will send you a book of My Father Knew the Secret, because it is a great book. So be sure to share this out. Brian, please go ahead and tell us about yourself and what you do and what inspired you to write this book.
Well, what do? I come from a bit of a long background. Like yourself, back in my 20s, I was a realtor. And I was a realtor for, I guess, about 12 years. Did really, really well in that business. I basically took everything that my father, Bob Proctor, what he taught me, and I applied it in real estate. And I know my first year in the business, I was in the top 100 internationally for a very large real estate firm. After that, my father talked me into coming back into the company and working with him. I worked with him when I was a teenager, just doing kind of road stuff, just helping him on the road and things. So I came back and worked for him for, I guess, a little over 30 years. And I was really involved in the whole marketing of what we did. For those of you that don't know, Bob Proctor is really, he never liked to be called a motivational speaker. He really liked to be called a teacher. And he really taught people how to live a better life, how to alter paradigms, the way we think, so that we can do more in this world and achieve more. So I got to work by his side, which was wonderful. My father passed away just about a year and a half ago. And since then, I've really just been focused on this book. I had been writing this book for about 4 years, Zena. I started writing it when my father was alive. I was talking with my wife, I'm going back 4 years. And I said to her, I said, I know I've got something I could write a book about that could help people out there. And she said to me, she says, Brian, why don't you write about your father? She said, all the seminars and events that we go to, the first thing everybody asks me is, what's it like being Bob Proctor's son? And so I thought, boy, that's actually the right way to go about it. I can write all the stories, all the lessons, everything I learned from Bob Proctor as a father, as a friend, as a business partner, and put it all into one concise book that people can use to better their life. So I started writing it, and it was a lot of fun. My father and I are both early morning people, so we would often get on the phone at 5 a.m. and I would share with him what I was writing at the time, and I would ask him questions and how he remembered a particular story. And We really enjoyed it. I didn't know what I was going to call the book at that time, which I wished I had the title before he passed on. But I feel that he guided me to this title. One night I was after he was gone. It was probably 3 in the morning. I had a very vivid dream of my father, and I woke up, and the title, "My Father Knew the Secret," was in my head, which is just kind of crazy. I got up and I wrote it down so that I wouldn't forget it, and it just felt right. For those of you that know, my father was a pretty dominant person in the movie and the book, The Secret, that was released in 2006. And it propelled him to a worldwide stage. It really let the world know who Bob Proctor was. That's that. It just felt fitting that I would call it "My Father Knew the Secret," based on that. After he was in that movie and in that book, he was on Larry King Live, Ellen DeGeneres. He was on all kinds of shows. So it really, I guess, it brought his teachings out to the world. So the last year and a half, Zena, and it's in a long answer to your question. I've just been working on this book. I released it just over a month ago. It's been really exciting. The response has been tremendous, and it's been a lot of fun.
I think it's just so beautiful that you got to spend so much time with your dad, and even just being able to write this book. And I know that he passed away before the book got released, and you started writing this 4 years ago. So he passed away when was it?
He passed away in February of 2022.
Okay, so you were already in the process of writing this book.
Mm-hmm.
So how amazing that you got to do this towards the end of his life, and
Right.
what a gift. And I would imagine this must have helped a little bit with the grieving process for you.
It did. It's interesting you say that. I struggled after my father passed away, as I know many people do when their parents go. Dad and I, we weren't just father and son. I mean, we were best friends. We were business partners. We talked to each other multiple times a day. And we were just really, really close. So for me, writing this book certainly helped with the grieving process. After he passed away, it probably took me 2 to 3 months before I could even start writing again. But once I did, the first thing I wrote was the first chapter. And I had lots of other parts of the book written, but that first chapter was probably the hardest to write, for sure. But I also think it holds some really valuable lessons. So that was the first thing I wrote. And yes, it helped. I think what's really, really helped me, quite frankly, is the response I've gotten from the readers, the people that have gotten the book, and the reviews that are being put up on Amazon, and just emails and phone calls and different messages from people, how the book has affected them, how it's touched them. It's like I can feel my father coming through me sometimes. And that's, if anything, that's probably helped with the grieving process more than anything, Zena.
Oh, so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And so, there obviously you had a lot to uh, say, I would imagine. And even the book probably can't touch on everything
Right.
because, your father knew the secret for a long time.
Yeah.
And so, growing up, was he already in the industry of teaching people this particular secret when you came into this world? Or did that happen afterwards?
You know what? Here's the cool thing. So my father was given the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. He was given that book in October of 1961. I was born in December of 1961.
Okay.
So I got to be with him his entire journey in this personal development field. And as a child, I witnessed him in the 1960s and 1970s really forging the way. He was one of the kind of the pioneers in personal development. Back in those days, personal development was not the industry it is today. You didn't have podcasts like this sharing positive information. There was not much like that back then. So he was really a pioneer, and I watched him really from the very beginning of the industry forge his way and I got to be there for the whole ride. So it was pretty cool. And as a child, I'll share with you probably one of my earliest memories of Dad, and this kind of gives testament to the man, who he was, what he was about, and his capacity for strengthening and building your self-image. As a child, I remember, I go back to my very first memories, and it's of, being tucked to bed at night. And I remember as a young boy laying in bed, if Dad was home, he was the one that tucked me in. And he would come, he would sit on the edge of the bed, and he'd put his hand on my chest. He always said after the fact, he said that personal connection is important. And he would put his hand on my chest, and he would talk about the day that I had. And he would, reinforce all the good things that happened that day. And if there was something bad happen, he would have me start to look at what is the good that comes out of that bad. He would have me focus on the good rather than the bad, which was really kind of nice. He would reinforce all the good things. And then he would end the evening, or the prayer, for lack of better words, he would end it by saying, Brian, you are capable of being, doing, or having anything you want in this world. You're going to have a great sleep. When you wake up in the morning, you're going to have a big smile on your face and have a wonderful day. And that's my early memories of Dad. That's how I grew up. So it was pretty special.
That is very special, because the majority of people don't have parents that really have that deep of an understanding to even pass along to their children.
Right.
So the fact that he was able to do that. Now, you have siblings as well?
I have a brother and sister as well. So, we all got to experience that.
That's fun.
And, the great part is that I then got to do that with my kids. I have two children who are grown adults now. And I did the same thing with them. And I never had any trouble with my kids through teenage years or anything. They're very well-adjusted, confident, young people. I now have grandchildren, which is so much fun, because now I'm seeing my daughter do the same thing with her kids. And, what Dad created just in that simple act is a generational change, really, because he didn't have that when he was young. So he was the one who started that. And what he has done for generations now it's pretty magical.
That is very magical. And I'm thinking, as you're saying all that, what a legacy he left. That, many people think of, when you're leaving a legacy, that you're leaving wealth regarding to money and assets and that sort of thing. And although he probably did that too, but the true legacy that really lives on, because let's face it, material stuff dwindles.
Right.
It's not things you can take with you, and you may or may not have it to pass on to generation and generation. But the legacy that he passed on to you, having the life skills, having the skills to be able to overcome and adapt to any situation, that is very phenomenal. And to change the trajectory of basically the lineage of your family, I find that very phenomenal, fascinating. You were very blessed, for sure.
Yeah, I do realize that. I do realize how gifted I was, that he was my father. And that's part of why I wanted to write this book. I felt that this was, I feel that I could share a very unique perspective of who Bob Proctor was, in a way that can touch the reader. And more than just touch the reader, give them actual techniques and things that you can do to change your life, to live a better life. Some of us already have a great life, but it can always be better. My father always said, better is a good word. He loved the word better, and everything can always be better. And, I basically distilled everything he taught me over my 60 years with him into this book. So it's chock full of the great things that he did for me, for our family, for the general public out there when he was doing seminars. It's really full of everything.
Wow. So then, when you became a young man, an adult, you decided to go into real estate right after that, or when did you get into real estate?
So I worked with my father from my late teens into my mid 20s. And, especially late teens and early 20s, I needed to bust out and do something on my own, prove to myself that I could make it on my own without being, under my father's wing. Let's put it that way. And so I always had an interest in real estate. So I thought I'm going to become a real estate agent. I loved real estate and I liked sales. I thought this would be perfect. And I was 26 years old when I got into real estate. And as I said at the beginning of the show, my very first year, I made it in the top 100 internationally. And that was because I practiced what my father taught me. I really did. And, I immediately became a real big success in the real estate industry. I mean, I think in my first month in the business, I earned over $40,000. And
Wow.
I'm going back a long time. This was back in the 80s. So it was really, for me, it was a great experience to not only test the theories and everything I've been taught from my father, but to actually put them into practice and reap the rewards for it. And so that was kind of cool. So that's when I got into real estate. So it was after working with Dad for a while. He had, for years after I got into it, he kept trying to get me back into the company to work with him. And it was like, no, I got to do my own thing for a while. And eventually I hit a point where, yes, I would like to come back and work with, I'd done my thing outside. I had proved that I could make it on my own. And then quite frankly, I had more to contribute to his company and to help in the marketing of what he did. So it was kind of the perfect blend at that point.
Wow. Yeah, that is pretty astounding that you produced over $40,000 in your first month as an agent.
Yeah.
Because most agents take a good 6 months to a year before they get their first commission check.
Right.
And it's usually not $40,000, even in today, not even, like you said, this was in the 80s. So,
Right.
you know,
Yeah,
um,
this was back when real estate wasn't expensive like it is today, Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Wow. That is phenomenal and just incredible. And I'm sure everybody wanted to be on your team or wanted you on their team.
Well, the cool thing was that I started running meetings for our branch, our real estate company, our office, whatever you want to call it. There was probably 50, 60 agents in the office at the time, and I started running some of the meetings and sharing what I was doing to help other agents do better as well. So it was a lot of fun.
So then how long did you do real estate for before you went back to work for your father?
About 12 years.
12 years. Okay. So that you had a good long spanning career in real estate then.
Oh, I did. Yep, I definitely did. Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of skills acquired with the real estate.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I look back. I'll share one of the lessons that really worked for me that I think will help everybody that's watching this. Um, it was in, I think, 1988. I was down in Palm Desert, right next to Palm Springs in California. A fella, you may know his name, Mike Ferry. Mike Ferry is a big real estate trainer, or at least he was. I don't know what he's doing now, but Mike Ferry was a real big real estate trainer back in the 80s. And I was at a big event that he was holding at that time. There was 2,000 agents in the room. And I sat right at the front, front row of the whole thing, because I always knew the value of these kind of events and seminars that you could glean. If you just got one thing that you could change or use in your life, it would make, all the difference in the world. Well, I guess Mike got wind of what I was doing because I was really a rookie in real estate, but I was, doing very, very well. And he actually asked me up on stage. And I was a little taken aback. I wasn't quite sure what was going to happen. And he basically explained to the group there what I was doing, how my sales were just like going through the roof. And he asked me to share what was my secret. And it was so funny. I stood there and I thought for a minute, and it came to me that I learned this secret when I was 9 years old. And I'll share it with you now. I was born in Toronto, so I started school in Toronto. From there, we moved to London, England. So I had to start a new school in London, England. Then we moved back to Toronto, into a different area of the city. So I started a whole nother school there. And then by grade 4, we moved to Chicago. So by the time I'm 9 years old, I'm already into my 4th school. And Zena, I was forever that new kid in school. So, it got to be a little hard. I hated being that new kid. And I can remember as clear as day at 9, sitting in the den at this new house that we had in Chicago with Dad, and I was telling him I was afraid to be that new kid again. And he gave me this simple tip and tool, and it has made all the difference for all of my life. It's what he likes to call the impression of increase. And that is, if you can leave everybody you come in contact with feeling better because they were in contact with you that day, you're going to get on in the world in a great way. And what he said was, everybody you walk into or you meet at school, whoever you talk to, put these 4 letters across their forehead, MMFI, and it stands for make me feel important. He said, if you can make everybody you're talking to feel important, feel seen, feel heard, you are going to get on in the world in a great way. You're going to make friends really easily, and you will have no troubles whatsoever, and you won't be that new kid for very long. And that was it. And he said, it's easy to do. You can find something good about everybody if you look hard enough. And if you, it can be done by paying a simple compliment. It's definitely done by being present and engaged and listening when you're talking to somebody. Ask them good questions and really listen to what they're saying and take an interest in them. If you can do that, you're going to move on in the world. And that was it. So I did that back when I was 9. And I started doing that really, I've done that for the rest of my life. Well, when I was in real estate, and I treated everybody that was in front of me as the most important person in the world. I was forever present with them and interested in helping them. That caused me to get referrals like crazy. They would refer family members, friends, whoever to me because they really enjoyed dealing with me. That made all the difference for me in real estate. And it's made all the difference, really for the rest of my life. So that was a pretty powerful lesson that's really simple. That if we just, think about and practice, can make a difference in our life.
That I love, to make everyone feel special. And at the very first time that you meet them, that is a wonderful tip. And that was a wonderful thing to learn at the age of 9.
I know. We had a family that came down from Seattle. I'm about an hour south of Seattle. We had somebody reach out. She is a life coach, and she had purchased 30 books for her clients. She got the book. She loved it so much. She went and bought 30 copies to give to her clients. And when she found out I lived just south of her, she was wondering if, she could get the books signed. So I said, I'd be happy to. And we invited them down, her and her husband and her son, down to the house for an afternoon. And I signed all the books for her clients. And her son, who was there, was 9 years old. And it was just so fun to look back and think and see their son and realize he was the same age I was when I learned that material. And when I shared that with her, she's now been teaching that to her son. And that's just a great thing.
Well, and that's life-changing because then, because that is an age, like you said, I mean, that's a very transitional age. 9, we are starting to really come into our own, socializing little more so. And and hi, Ken Walls. Ken is here.
Oh, well, hello there, Ken.
Ken is a wonderful human being as well, and he has lots of wonderful wisdoms that he shares with his team or his group and Grow Live, where I'm a part of. And so, but I think it's just so great that you were able to have that skill and then hit junior high and high school.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably had lots of friends, and people probably
you know what? I had a lot of friends. And here's the interesting thing was, in school, especially in a school, there gets to be these little cliques, little groups. And, there's the cool kids, there's the nerds, there's the, I don't know, in my age, there was the smokers, the non-smokers, there was, all this stuff. Well, I got along with everybody. I was not, pushed away from any of the group because of how I treated everybody. And that was, looking back on it, that's a pretty cool thing.
That is a pretty cool thing. So,
hey, look at you.
Brian, I really feel like putting on my rose-colored glasses today. So because you were such a friendly guy, I guess that's where the rose-colored glasses come in. Brian, do you go through life wearing your rose-colored glasses? I actually really like these glasses. I
I
like
love
the
that.
bling,
I love that.
and
Well,
rose tone is beautiful.
you know what, Zena, that's awesome. Yeah, for those of you watching, you wonder where this is going. One of the chapters in the book, I call it "Living with Rose-Colored Glasses," and my father taught me to live that way, and I have always lived that way. I always look for the good in anything that's happening, and I think that's a great trait. You know, some people, my detractors, they'll say, "Well, that's not real. How can you live like that all the time? That's false." And I disagree. I think I live a better life because I do look at life through rose-colored glasses. Dad always taught me that even when bad things happen, there's good in it, and you need to look for the good. And that is like looking through rose-colored glasses. Always look for the good in everything. And if you do, here's the great thing, Zena. I think you attract great people into your life. Because if you're always positive, you're going to attract positive people into your life. You know, when you see those people that are always negative or always seeing the bad in something, do you really want to be around them? Not really. Um, but when you see somebody who's always positive, always upbeat, always seeing the good, even when something bad happens to them, they say, well, it is what it is. And they just carry on. What a great way to live. Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that you've got some. I've got to go and find some.
Yeah, I'll send you some. I can send you these bling ones if you want, Brian. They're fun, that is for sure. And you know, and even just putting it on, just even right now, it changes. And I know this is a physical rose-colored glasses, but it changes even the energy. Like I put it on, and I felt like immediately, you know, just a fun, energized energy coming through. And so, I really love that you say, yeah, what's wrong with wearing rose-colored glasses in your
That's
life?
right. Yeah.
Because it's a great way to live life. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't know that there are dangers around the corners or that there's a pothole coming on, right? I mean, you put the rose colored glasses, you can still see some of the things coming up. It doesn't mean that you're blinded to the other things. It's that you choose to focus on what is good.
And that is exactly it. You know, I'm not going to say bad things don't happen to me. I've had bad things happen to me. Um, but I don't need to sit there and focus on those bad things and give that energy and let that become part of my identity. What good is that going to do me? You know, you're best to release that and just focus on the good. What can you do right now that's good? What can you focus on that's good, even when something bad has happened? You know, my dad always had a great phrase that I loved when he would say it from the stage. He said, "You cannot change the time you got out of bed this morning." And every time I heard him say that, I just loved it. And really what he means is that what's happened in the past has happened in the past. You can't change the time you got out of bed this morning. You know, good, bad, indifferent. We've had things happen in our past. We can't change it. What we do have control over is the present moment, the right here and right now. And if we be the best version of us right now, we're going to live a great life, Sina. We really will. And it's the people that hang on to the past, good or bad, that let that keep looping in their mind, that create blocks that don't allow them to move forward and live a better life. Whereas if we can just let it go, it is what it is. And what can we do right now to be the best version of us? It's not going to say that our life is going to change instantaneously. But I promise you, if you live in the present moment and do what you can right now to be the best version of you, your life will get better. And it might not get better today or tomorrow, but I promise you, if you keep focused on that and you keep living that way, 6 months from now, you'll look back and you'll think, oh my God, look what's happened. Your life will be different. It's really just a great way to be.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Ken says that he was listening to your dad this morning, as he does every morning. Oh, he's got to run. Oh, Ken, we love you too. Thank you so much for coming in and sharing. Thank you very
Great
much.
to see your great to see your name come across here, Kenny. You're a great man.
He is a great man, and he definitely lives life in looking at the positives and really focusing on what's most important. And so you're right, Brian, in that when you shift that energy, when you go from woe is me to just praising and having gratitude for the things in life, that it really does change who comes into your life.
It really does. It really does. It's important. And I think so often, Zena, we don't give that thought. We don't even think about it. There's so many people that are just living day to day and just running on autopilot. that they don't give it thought. But, if you're listening to this, you're now aware. You're aware of the way you're thinking and what you're doing. And if you got stuff that's holding you back, let it go. My dad always talked about forgiveness. Forgiveness is such a powerful thing. And I had a great, I can even remember where I was sitting when I had a conversation with him about it, because I was writing a chapter on forgiveness. So that's part of what's in the book. And I asked him, I said, Dad, you've had so many people that have crossed you over the years or have done things to you, and you don't seem to harbor any negative thoughts. You don't take any of that on. And he said to me, that's because I forgave them. He says, I just let them go. He says, I'll never do business with them again. I won't forget what they did, but I forgive them. They only did the best they knew how, or whatever was happening at that point in time. He said, forgiveness is not to let the other person off the hook. Forgiveness is to let ourselves off the hook. We need to forgive so that we can become free and get rid of the blocks that are holding us back from living our best version of us. That's really what forgiveness is about. And sometimes that forgiveness can be about forgiving ourselves for something we've done in the past. I can think back to myself. I did some things when I was younger that, God, I wish I hadn't done. I could live in regret around it. I could let it form a part of who I am, but I don't. I even forgive myself for it because it's done. All I can do now is be the best version of me. And if we can do that and start being the best version of who we are right now, that's all that truly matters.
Oh, and I love that chapter when I read that, because Jesus, the Bible tells us time and time again how important forgiveness is, because it is good for our soul. It's healing to the soul. And you're right. It's about allowing us to move forward. It's not so much that you're saying it was okay, what they did. It's that, I love that your father explained, it's that they didn't know any different. That was the best that they could have done at that moment. And that's okay. We're all a work in progress.
Right.
Right?
And it's true. When we hang on to resentment and grudges and everything else, let's face it, the only person we're truly harming is ourselves. Half the time, the other person doesn't even know you're giving it energy. It's this loop that we've got going on in our own head that we're just damaging ourselves. So it's time to let it go and carry on and start being the best version of who we are now and live in the present moment.
And imagine if every single person, the billions of people in this world, if each of us just focus on that, imagine what the world would look like.
The world would be a great place. It would be a little different. That's for sure, Zena.
It would be very different, right? Yeah, for sure. And that's why, I think people should get this book and read it, because it's very simple read, but has so many great nuggets of wisdom and even reminders. So even if you've heard some of these things before, which, if we've been listening to personal development, it's one of those things that to be reminded and even to be see it in a different way, it's inspiring. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. I've not been writing down my affirmations nearly as much as I should have been, because you get into the mundane of life sometimes.
Right.
And so we sometimes just need that uplifting reminder. And you've got some really great stories of you and your dad. And that's what I loved about this book, is that it's such an endearing book about your relationship with your father. So you're not just giving out, this advice, but the tonality is that it's your relationship with your dad.
Well, a fun part of writing this book was that, I go back to, my father always said that if you truly understand something, you'd be able to explain it simply enough that a child would understand. Mm-hmm. It's if we can't explain, concepts in a simple fashion, then we don't fully understand them. And that's why I wrote the book in really a simple format. And I wrote it in more of a conversational tone, as you know. And I get to share some great stories that I had with my father that really have a valuable lesson woven within it. And then after that, there's consider points. And those consider points will actually show you what to look at and give you suggestions on how you can apply it to your life right now. And I think that's important.
Mhm.
I had a lot of fun writing this, and I personally think it's a great book. And I don't say that because I wrote it. It's the book is not about me. It's really about my father and everything I learned from him. And I have really done my best to include all the secrets, all the lessons, everything that he taught me as his son. So I'm getting the best of the best because he wanted me to live a great life. And I truly consider that I live a charmed life. I really do. I never inherited anything or any of that nature. Everything I've got, I've done on my own. But I've done it because of everything I learned from my father. I stepped out and did things that a lot of people wouldn't do because I was willing to bet on myself. And I was willing to step out of my comfort zone to do things that have enabled me to live a better life. And all of that happened because of everything I learned from my father. So, I got to include all of that in this book. So I'm not back ending or selling some high end program after this that's going to give you the true secrets. You get everything in this book for $17, $18. You've got it all. And I feel really good about that. I just feel that this is a great way to get his teachings to a massive amount of people in an easy to digest way. So it's been a fun experience for me, Zena.
Yeah, I'm glad that you did write the book, and yeah, absolutely is going to be transformational for many people. I do believe that for sure. So I'm curious. So you have your siblings. You all grew up with an amazing father who gave you such wisdom as you're growing up. Did you guys fight like siblings fight? Did you guys have conflict like the rest of us had?
What's funny is I look back and I know my sister, my brother have had their moments when they were younger, but no, not really. Um, we all get along really well. I mean, I'm in my 60s. They're close to their 60s. And man, we still get along great. We talk to each other all the time. We get together for family functions all the time. We've never really had any issues. There's never been any rifts between us. Um, I think we always try to look for the best in each other. And that's just kind of the way we were brought up. So, I realize that that's not everybody's life, but that's my life. And that's the way we've chosen to live it.
That's great. And then your children, not any conflicts there? Any sibling rivalries?
Not
No.
at all. I look at my two kids. I have two children, and I have two stepchildren, and they all get along incredibly well. My two kids growing up, they're just 2 years apart, a son and a daughter, and they have always had a really close, tight relationship. And they never got on each other's. I can't say they never got on each other's nerves, but they've always gotten along and are very close to this day, which is really a great thing as a parent to see.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a great parent thing to see for a parent to see that your children will get along and do get along and love each other. So I know for me for sure, my kids fought like cats and dogs growing up. So when they became adults and I saw that they actually liked each other and they do call to go, make plans to hang out, it's like, oh, thank God,
Yeah, it's
because
very satisfying.
it is. It is.
Yeah.
So, what is the funniest memory you have with your father? Do like a moment that just really makes you just laugh when you think
Oh
about
boy, I guess there's a few that makes me just laugh. Um, Boy, just laugh. I guess I can remember we relived this story even when he was in the hospital, right about when he was about to pass away. When I was young, I was a little full of myself. I was 14 years old, and we were on a vacation in Florida, and I don't know what sparked me to challenge Dad to a foot race. As silly as this sounds, but we did a foot race. We marked a line from a divider and sidewalk and went a couple of utility posts down the way. And I thought, man, I'm going to whip him. I'm in running shoes and shorts. He's in a pair of loafers and slacks. And I'm going to whip him good in this running race. Well, we got going, and I can hear Dad right behind me laughing. And all of a sudden, it was like he put on the jets and he bolted right past me. I look back on that just with sheer joy. He was laughing that here I was full of myself, and he kind of humbled me down a little bit. And to the end of his life, we still laughed about that moment. And I don't know what a joyous time it was. It's nothing crazy or big, but it was just a fun moment between the two of us. And I never was upset that he beat me or anything like that. It was just a funny thing, and it was like, man, I really underestimated you. And it's just that was just a fun moment. He had one of those magical laughs. He was one of those people that when you heard him laugh, you would start laughing.
Mm.
And he would always look for the humor in everything, which is great. We talked about looking through rose-colored glasses. That was Dad. He looked at life through rose-colored glasses. And even when something bad was happening, he'd look for the good out of it, and he'd find some way to laugh at it. Even when terrible things were happening, he would find some way to laugh about it and just look for the good, and then just, kind of carry on. And for me, I don't know, that's one moment in time for sure that always comes to my head, but just the memory of his laughter alone brings me joy.
That's awesome. Just awesome that you have that. And that's a treasured memory. You have a lot of treasured memories. And that, I think that's just beautiful that those are the memories that will comfort you for the rest of your life, because obviously him not being here, he's well missed by your family, and the rest of the world that he impacted.
Yeah.
So having that is very, very precious. And I'm glad that God gives us that gift of memory, because I
Yeah.
can't imagine not having, memories and to go by, when we meet people and when we form relationships with them. So that picture behind you uh,
Yes.
is pretty awesome. Tell us about that.
You know,
I'm going to bring this up.
that is, that's a painting that my mother-in-law painted. She's an artist, and she gave that to me as a gift. I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago. She took a picture that was of my father speaking, and she created that painting. So as soon as she gave it to me, it's like, man, this got to go in my office. It just, it just captured everything about my father, who he was, how he held himself up. So I love it, and I love that it's on the wall right here.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, just see even from the camera. I imagine even in person, the texture, the everything, the details. Your mother-in-law is very gifted. What a beautiful gift.
Really is. It's so nice. Our home has so many paintings from her in it because she's a tremendous artist, and it just, well, these things kind of give off an energy. They complete the space, and it really helps to I don't know, give a warmth to the home, which is nice.
And that's beautiful. So you've got, gifts from your mother-in-law, that will be with you for a long time.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. And then your father gave you beautiful gifts too. So that's so cool. What a happy home you live in. And not only is it a happy home you live in, but you've got a tremendous view from what I understand from your
well, we do. There's a good lesson in this. We live, my wife Cory and I, we live in a magnificent home. We had it custom built. We're right on Puget Sound. We're literally 15 feet from the water. We have killer whales and seals and gray whales and everything, all like literally that swim by right out front of our deck. And I'll tell you, the lesson in this was several years ago. We were living in Florida at the time, and we had a goal to live in the Northwest. My wife is from the Northwest. I love the Northwest. And so we had bought a home, the place that we're in now. It wasn't this house. It was another house that was built over 100 years ago. So it really needed a lot of work, but the location was spectacular. And I remember sitting with Dad. He was down visiting me in Florida. He came down to spend a Christmas down there. And I went out for lunch with him. I asked him, to go out for lunch, and I wanted to share with him that, my goal was I really wanted to build a custom home here. But it was going to require an incredible amount of money because we had to get all kinds of approvals and studies, and we had to stay within the footprint, but we could go up and we could, do different things. And it was going to cost a lot of money. I didn't want to get a mortgage. We wanted to pay for it as it went. And once we committed to it, we were committed to it. And I can remember sitting with Dad and giving him all the reasons why I maybe shouldn't do it, but I was really excited about it. And he said to me, he says, Brian, and I was trying to figure out, different things I could do to earn the money to make it happen. And here was a great lesson that he gave me. He says, Brian, he says, if it's inspiring, if it excites you enough that that's what you really want, go for it, make the commitment, and you'll find the way. You don't need to figure it all out right now, but make a commitment for it. And then the key is step into action, start doing something to get yourself there. I am so grateful I had that conversation with him because at that moment, I knew it. We're going to go for it because this is really what we wanted. And I stepped into it, and I didn't know how we were going to get here. I didn't know how we were going to pay for it all without getting a mortgage. But we figured it out along the way because we took action. And the great lesson in that is when you have something that's really big that inspires you, you're going to step out and do things in a day that you would never normally do. There's power in that, and there's greatness in that, and that's where we grow. So yes, now we are living in this house that we had custom built, and it's spectacular. We're living in the place of our dreams that we really love, and it's because we were willing to bet on ourselves and step out and take action and do things that we wouldn't normally do to allow us to live the way we want now. That was a great thing.
That's awesome that you had a father that was encouraging you to do things that seemed impossible. My parents immigrated from Vietnam, and so they were busy trying to survive and learn a new culture, and so they weren't there. Many of the times, the things that they would tell me is play it safe.
Right.
You got to play it safe, and
Yeah.
so that was what I grew up with, and I think many people grew up with, you got to play it safe.
Yeah.
You don't know if you don't know that's going to pan out, you can't be irresponsible because you could lose it all.
Right.
But I love that your dad said, go for it.
Yeah, you know what? My father was kind of the opposite. He was not a play it safe kind of guy. He said, not to be irresponsible by any means, but that you need to bet on yourself, and you need to go after something that's maybe not playing it safe, that's going to cause you to do things you wouldn't normally do. That's where growth really takes place. And yeah, that was his way of being. And I do remember some people very close to me were like, Brian, why would you do that now? You've got life really good. You're comfortable. You don't have any other worries. Why would you put yourself on the line to do that at this stage in life? And it's like, wow, I could have let that stop me, but I didn't. I didn't listen to that. I listened to my inner heart, my inner voice. What do I want for my life? What does my wife want for her life? And this is what we wanted. So yeah, we were willing to step into it and do whatever was required to get there. And, that's a good thing. We didn't play it safe, and we're now reaping the rewards for it because we didn't. We weren't irresponsible by any means, but we didn't play it safe either. And I think as long as you're not irresponsible, you step into something with commitment, and you'll find a way to make it work. That's the key. And that's the cool part is that, as I said already, I'll say it a million times because there's importance in this. You need to find something that's going to cause you to do things in a day you would never normally do. And as I said earlier, if we can live in the present moment and be the best version of us and step out and do those things, we're going to get whatever we want in this world because we're action takers. Dad loved action takers. And if you're willing to take action on something, then you're going to get the reward.
And that is what the American dream is all about. Right
It
there.
really is. Yeah.
Yeah, right there, because our founding fathers founded this country on a vision. And I think about that often, like, gosh, back then they didn't even know if the world was round before it set sail. And what, rumors had it kind of thing. They didn't have social media to verify, any of that kind of stuff. Right. And how awesome that they just went and did it, and look at where we are today. reaping the benefits of those who took courage to do things that other people were like, you're crazy. Why would you leave something you know to go to a place you have no idea what it's going to be like and
Right.
cross seas that you have no idea, where it's going to take you. So could fall off the end of the world, fall off the world.
You just never know.
You never know. But hey, what an adventure. So I want to put on here too. I had kind of put this together. So My Father Knew the Secret is on Amazon, and you can certainly purchase it there. But I would actually recommend, if you're not one of the two that I'm going to give this book out to, you can go to KellyProctorCo and get your book there, because he also has some bonuses along with purchasing the book. And these are really truly free bonuses that you're giving, because the price of the book is the same as if it was on Amazon. You're just giving a couple of extra stuff.
Yep. It's, I'm having fun with it. I just want to deliver value. Dad always said, if you help enough people get what they want, you're going to get everything in life that you want. And I live that way. So, for me, if you go to brianproctor.com, it'll give you an Amazon link for whatever country you're in, or Barnes and Noble. You can purchase the book, and then you can opt in to get all the bonuses. And I'm going to continue to add new bonuses and do different things that are free, that no charge. I've done a live Q&A already with a lot of people that bought the book. We'll do others. I just want to deliver value. So I promise you that if you go there and you leave your email address, I will not abuse it. But if you don't want to leave your email address, just go to Amazon. You can get a copy of the book. Once you read the book, I think you'll know. And then you may want to get on that list and get some of the bonuses. But I'm just about delivering value. I think there's something good in doing that. And I know that if I can help you get what you want, I'm going to get everything I want as well. And that's kind of a good thing.
And that's one of the chapters you wrote too. Givers give, I believe.
Givers gain.
Givers gain. That's it.
Yeah.
Givers gain. Yes. Beautiful. For sure. And I put this picture up of your dad. It's the start that stops most people, because
it's so true. It's so true. Yeah.
Yeah, that is so true, because I know many times that's what stopped me. It was the start.
Well, I look back on some of the big things, Zena, that I've done in my life. And if I knew what I had to do to get there, I might not have ever done it. Sometimes being a little bit naive is not a bad thing. But, as we chase after our big dream and we step out into it and just do things that we're uncomfortable with, the things that we learn and what we gain for it are immeasurable. And we become a better person because of it. And we become more effective because of it. It's just the way life is. So you step out and do what you're uncomfortable doing if it's going to get you where you want to go. I promise you, you're going to live a different life, and you can live the life of your dreams. There's no reason why you can't.
Absolutely, because we were created to live a life of abundance and peace and joy. And the reason why we got kicked out of the Garden of Eden, so to speak, is because we didn't grasp onto the things that were right there for us. We thought there was something shinier, newer, better, but it took us down a path that was not so great. And so you're right. If we can just get back to that way of being better, of growing, of developing, and understanding that there is no finish line. I mean, until our last breath.
My father was a great studier of this material. He read books like crazy. And oftentimes you'd think somebody in his position, he knew it all. Well, he knew he didn't know it all. And he studied right up until literally the day before he passed away. He was forever studying. He knew the value in it. And he knew that the more we can learn, the better we can be, the better version of us we can be. And for him, he was always teaching people how to live a better life. And so he was forever looking for new things that he could teach, new things that he could share with an audience to help them live a better life. And it was a great thing that he was all about. And really, that's what I share in the book. I just share everything that he did throughout his life. You know, it doesn't matter how old you are, what you've been through, what your circumstance is right now. It can be better from this moment forward if we make a choice and we step into it. You know, my father was always big in the self-development industry, but he didn't make it huge until he was 72 years old. That's when the movie The Secret in the Book came out. He was 72 at the time. And that elevated him to a whole nother platform. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, you know, what you don't know, what's happened in your life. All that matters is, are you willing to better yourself from this point forward? And are you willing to be the best version of you this point forward and live in the present moment? I just cannot emphasize that enough. If we can let go of the baggage that's holding us back, the nonsense, the chatter that's going on in our head, boy, we can live a better life. You know, I always like to say, Zena, would you be friends with somebody that talked to you the way you talk to yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah.
And think about that. If we berate ourselves, hey, that's on us. And it's time to change the dialogue. And let's speak to ourselves the way you would want a friend to speak to you. And, you know, start living that way. It's a good way to live.
That's beautiful. And you know, that's something that I had told myself a long time ago when I was a young woman and I didn't have a lot of friends. And I remember thinking to myself and thinking, gosh, you know, I wish this friend would be like this, and I wish they would do this. And then it just dawned on me, well, maybe you should be the friend you want.
Right.
Wow. Like,
Yeah.
why don't you become the friend that you wish you had? And maybe things will change. And
Yeah.
sure enough, and this is before I even read anything, you know, but it really did change things because then I was able to develop relationships. Suddenly, there are
Mhm.
people in my lives who were good friends, and it no longer was that. Gosh, I always only people around here don't know how to be friends. They're not loyal. They're backstabbers or whatever it was. You know, girl drama.
Right.
And yeah, so you're right. Wow, that's beautiful, and I love the way that you put that. Wow, Brian, this hour went by really fast, and I feel like we just barely touched the surface.
You know what, Zena, it has been wonderful being here with you. I love having a conversation, especially with somebody that's actually read the material and is interested in the material. So this has been really enjoyable for me as well.
Well, thank you so much again, guys. Go out, order this book. It is great. And you know what? Christmas, I don't even want to talk about Christmas. I know it's August, but Christmas is around the corner because we're going to start seeing Christmas stuff. But think about that. You know, this would be a great gift for people out there. And go to brianproctor.com and put your order number in there and get your bonuses. They are very valuable. Brian is obviously an amazing guy who just wants to pass along what he's learned from his father, and he wants to pass it along to you. He doesn't want to keep the secret. He wants the secret to be out and for you to enjoy the benefits of it. And like he said, it's never too late. You're never too old to start making changes that need to be made, and for us to just focus on being the better version of ourselves. And what a beautiful world this will be if we just focus on that and not so much on what other people are doing and why they should quit doing those things. But if we just looked at ourselves. Brian, thank you again so much for being here. It's been a real pleasure and an honor. So I will say goodbye for now.
All right.
And until next time.
Thank you, Zena.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for being here on American Dream Makers. This was an amazing interview with Brian Proctor, the son of Bob Proctor. And again, please go out and get his book. My Father Knew the Secret is a great read. And share this out. If you're watching this on the replay, share this out. If you're watching us on the podcast, share this out. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful, blessed day. Until next time, have a good one.